Jessica Lee, Commercial Excellence Business Technology and Senior Manager at the Janssen Pharmaceutical Company, part of J&J, and Mark Bloomberg of Counsel at Zuber. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce each of our panelists in a little bit more detail. Brad Yasser is an entrepreneur, investor, mentor, and advisor with a global focus on blockchain and innovative technologies. He has conceived and bootstrapped several companies to maturity over the past 30 years. Brad is currently the CEO of Equifi, the premier decentralized global banking platform. He is also the founder of Beyond Enterprises, offering strategic and technical leadership, advisory, and support to projects in all blockchain implementation and development stages. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you for having me.
We also have Jessica Lee, Commercial Excellence and Business Technology at Janssen. So Jess says, only a life lived in the service of others is worth living. And Jessica Lee is on a mission to change the trajectory of healthcare. Trained as an educator and biomedical engineer, she has a unique background as an innovator, neuroscience researcher, digital health clinician, trials manager, data scientist, omnichannel marketer, and teacher. As a healthcare technology strategist with 3 patents in blockchain, she envisions, designs, and delivers digital health solutions that improve patient outcomes. Welcome, Jess.
Thanks, Claire.
And then last but not least, we have Mark Bloomberg of Counsel at Zuber. Mark is an intellectual property litigator with more than 35 years of experience. He has represented clients in infringement actions and advised clients concerning patent infringement, validity, remedies, and licensing. During this time, Mr. Bloomberg has participated in all aspects of patent litigation, including jury trials, bench trials, claim construction hearings, arbitrations, and appeals. He has a particular interest in emerging technologies, including blockchain, virtual reality, AI, and quantum computing. Mark is cum laude graduate of Harvard Law School with 2 engineering degrees from MIT. Between his time at MIT and Harvard Law, Mark worked literally as a rocket scientist. His capacity to quickly absorb very technical subject matter is extreme, and he's a member of the US Patent Bar. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks, Claire.
And my name is Claire. I'm a VP over at ProClinical. We're a global staffing firm specializing in healthcare. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, we have some questions for our panelists, and then we'll have about 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. So if you have any questions for our panelists, please don't be shy. Just start typing them as soon as they come up into the questions section. There's a Q&A button at the bottom there where you can add your questions, and we'll get through as many as we can at the end. So we'll dive right in there. The first one is, what is blockchain really, and what isn't blockchain? Jess, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure thing, Claire. So I'll answer this by kind of ping-ponging back and forth between what is blockchain and what it isn't. What I think of it in its simplest form is it's really a natural evolution of the internet, just with added layers of security and data validation. And what it isn't is, it is not just about cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or any of the other coins that are out there right now. In fact, crypto is not even required for a blockchain to work if set up that way. And there are many industries which can have business benefits from this technology, not just finance. And then another way to think of it, what blockchain isn't, is that it's not putting everyone's name and data out into the public. In fact, blockchains could be set up to be public, to be private, or hybrid is also possible. So more specifically for healthcare, I think we really need a hybrid system for it to be a comprehensive one in healthcare. So just as a quick example, as an employee of J&J, I should only ever be able to see anonymized data. But as a private citizen, I would be able to see de-identified health data for myself or my spouse, as an example.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jess. What can blockchain change in your industry and company? Brad, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, to build up on the previous question, blockchain is a public ledger system that's immutable. And there are a lot of benefits to that trustless model of keeping and accessing information that can be applied to a lot of industries, given the topic of today. In healthcare specifically, there has to be a lot of checks and balances because a lot of sensitive information is shared or needs to be shared across different parties. And what blockchain allows businesses to do is create these data sharing systems in a trustless way. So you don't have a central authority that needs to keep the data and safeguard it, and that you need to trust in order for that data to be valuable and valid, whether it's recording just a financial transaction or someone's whole medical history. With blockchain, what we're able to do is preserve the validity and accessibility of the data without revealing necessarily certain specific details. So when you get a file as a doctor, the file has a name, it has the pertinent medical information in it. But if someone else in transit sees that file, now they know the name of the patient, and if they look inside the details of their health record, that's when you have human elements helping with the transmission of information, you always have that risk of eyes not authorized to or needed to see certain things be able to access. With blockchain, we are able to eliminate that and pass data anonymously through different entities and systems, and allow only the end user to see the information that's relevant to their process or decision making or whatever they need the data for. So it allows a higher level of access with less exposure in transit. And that's just one of the myriad of uses you can have in different industries, from procurement to shipping to medical, and obviously finance and banking, which is what we're doing. It allows elimination of a lot of middle layers and still allowing the same valuable data to pass through and be accessible.
Thanks. Thanks, Brad. That's really helpful. What hardware and software may be needed to implement a blockchain solution for medical history data? Mark, did you want to take this?
Sure. Thanks, Claire. So far, we've sort of learned that blockchain is maybe somewhat complicated, and certainly it's very, very useful. And in terms of thinking about what is needed to implement it, the real way you start out thinking about it's just data. It's just data that's going to be shared across the internet amongst people, or across some network with people. And from that perspective, what do you need? Well, you need a way to implement the data, because however, it's going to be changed, so you have to do that. You have to implement it. You need a way to retrieve the data on the other side to use it for something. You need a way to transmit it from point A to point B. And the other thing that you have to really worry about from a perspective is people are going to have different systems. And so sometimes they're compatible and sometimes maybe they're not. So how do you make things that are different compatible? The other thing that you need to do is you need to store the data someplace, probably not locally, it's probably going to be in the cloud someplace. And there's two things that you need to worry about in that respect. One is if data is going to be changed in some fashion, how do you synchronize it so that everybody knows they're using the current data and not old data? And the other thing you really have to worry about is you better have some redundancy and backup so that if anything happens, all the data is not lost. The other question is that you need to think about is like, how are you going to use the data? Because you get the data, and forgetting that it's blockchain, people are going to be using it for all sorts of reasons, and they're going to use AI and various algorithms to use the data. And so you need that. And you're going to need a way of storing the data that you've used and selecting what you want. And the other thing you need to do is it has to be pretty fast and speedy, because you don't want to push the button to find out something and have to wait a half an hour to get it. So these are all the things that you're going to need. Now, some of this stuff is going to be off-the-shelf items in terms of hardware and software, but other things are going to be proprietary that people are really going to want to use. They're going to want to build their own systems, and particularly their own software and AI. So this is the sort of hardware and software you're going to need to implement and to use the blockchain in the medical area.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. How is blockchain applicable in life sciences, and what are the use cases for healthcare? Jess, did you want to start here?
Yep, sure thing. Thanks, Claire. Let's see. So in about 2008, blockchain and Bitcoin were introduced to the world, and this completely changed the way that we think about banking and money. But much beyond just the finance industry, healthcare is also stepping into this technology. So, for example, Guard Time worked with the Estonian government to put its citizens' healthcare records on blockchain. It's well over 1 million records now. IBM started a partnership with the US FDA to create a health data exchange. There's also a consortium of four giant corporations that formed the Synaptic Health Alliance. And they created a directory for healthcare providers so that they essentially have a better idea of where doctors are located and what hospitals or clinics they're associated with. There's another large consortium, MediLedger, that formed in, I think, around 2019 and began working on a solution to help track and trace drugs throughout the supply chain. More close to home for myself, we piloted and patented a blockchain system to drive value-based care rather than the fee-for-service model that we see today. But I imagine, based on Brad's experience, you probably also have a number of examples as well.
Yeah, Jess, I think the examples you gave are very important starting points. I believe the transition from paper-based care to digital hasn't completed its evolution yet, and blockchain is just the final step in it. But a lot of information in healthcare was kept in physical files throughout history. And there was a big challenge, both from hardware, since we talked about hardware, software perspective, how to scan X-rays and things like that. This was, a decade ago, maybe two now. But there was a lot of challenges that the industry had to address, having a meaningful transition where no data is lost, no data is compromised, and physical files can become digital files. Had we had blockchain 20 years ago, that would have been done by now. Because again, what blockchain allows us to do is share information either verifiably by individual or a group of people, or anonymously. So it allows even competitors to share information, share data that can advance the industry as a whole. And when we're talking about healthcare and human well-being and health, I think everyone would agree that putting aside competition and profits and creating systems that are more efficient will benefit everyone, even the bottom line of the company. So I think what blockchain is slowly allowing companies to do is, one, create those consortiums and data sharing models where they're not worried about certain pieces of information being shared or intercepted, so they can more freely share information. It is also allowing us to share information with computers, non-human entities, with AI systems and programs. When you have physical files, it's very hard for an AI based platform to read, access, and interpret those. Whereas when all your files are digital, they're easily uploadable to a system that can analyze them, whether it be cardiographs or X-rays or what have you, and draw meaningful analysis from it without any human interaction. So I think we're at the stage where data sharing is becoming a lot more easier. I mean, shipping physical folders from one doctor's office or one clinic to the other was a big constraint in both the system as well as timeliness of discovery of certain things. And that's slowly being eliminated. And then the types of data being shared is also becoming more abundant because you can strip whatever elements you don't want. Like if you're working on a drug and you want to share the results, but maybe not the specific trials or the compounds, you can just anonymize a portion of the information and share it with your competitors so they can see what's happening without getting access to anything proprietary or confidential. So I think that's a big thing. And on the retail side, it's helping a lot of people not go through duplicate assessments. I mean, I can personally attest to how many tests that I did in duplicates just because one doctor orders it. Then there's no way for the second doctor to see them. So they're like, well, we need another blood drawn. And I'm like, we just drew the blood and did these tests a month ago. And they don't have access to it, unfortunately. Even though it's in my file, it's a different doctor, different provider. So now with blockchain, I think a lot of those overlaps and issues in communication can be and are being addressed. And I see big changes coming in the next 3 to 5 years once the global implementation takes place. Because right now we're just talking about US or Europe or Asia, specific countries. Once we realize at the country level that blockchain allows this easy access to data, it's going to go global. Now we're going to have global standards on medical files and sharing and how it's done, how consent is acquired from the patients. And it's an exciting time to be around.
Excellent, thanks, guys. What intellectual property issues may arise in connection with the hardware and software for a blockchain solution? And Mark?
Yes, thanks, Claire. Well, the real issue is software is going to be far more important than hardware in this regard. And so starting at the software, it's not going to be patent issues because there's not going to be a lot of patenting of software. But there'll be trade secret and copyright issues. And where those issues really come from is there'll be a software license for whatever software that you're using. And there are a lot of questions that come up all the time. But some of the ones that are probably important here is, I know we've been talking about how important sharing is. And what you can share and who you can share it with are going to be very important things. And that's going to be spelled out in the agreement. So you have to make sure that whatever software license you have, it allows you to do that. And maybe you're sending certain information to others, and maybe you're collaborating with other people who may be consultants, who may work for different companies. Can you do all of that? The other thing that happens is if you're getting software from somebody, maybe their system is pretty good, but you'd like to improve it for your particular needs. And so can you add on to it? Do you have the rights to add on to it? And do you have the information necessary for you to add on to that? And then once you've done that, if you've come up with something wonderful, who owns it? Do they own it or do you own it? And who has what rights to it? And these are all sorts of issues that come up. And another thing that's important is software is always updated. Do you get updates and do you have to pay any more money for them? Those are the issues that you need to worry about. On the hardware side, it's pretty standard stuff because as I talked about earlier, there's going to be the hardware things are going to be basically things that are normal data things. And those issues do come up. They're often patent issues, but you're probably going to be getting components from others. And so very often the vendor will give you an indemnification in case there's a problem with whatever you've purchased. So it's a good idea to make sure that that's okay. But I think that the real issues that are going to pop up, which will get people in trouble that they really are with issues, are wanting to do something that your software license will not allow you to do.
So if somebody wanted to develop blockchain, is it better for them to start developing it and then go to a patent attorney, or to visit a patent attorney first to get a better feel for like some direction before?
Well, if they think that they've done something innovative, they should speak to an attorney to see whether or not they should patent it or what they should do about that. But what they should also do is to speak to somebody when they get licenses, to look at them carefully, because if they want to be working with somebody, getting the software from somebody, it's you don't want to act the way you act when you get the software license from your personal computer, where you just sort of sign off on it's okay. There are a lot more issues about that might come up, and someone should look at it carefully. And you need to think about what is it that you want to do, and does that software allow you to do it? And very often, if there's something you need to be changed, you can go to the vendor to sort of say, this is what I want to do. Unlike going back to what I said earlier, as a person, you're not going to talk to Microsoft and sort of say, well, I need my Windows license for my computer to be a little bit different. That's not going to happen. So it's a different thing for that.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks for that. What are the indications for blockchain and billing, Jess?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the billing, it's always a very hot topic, especially for those who work within the US's healthcare system, which is extremely complex, and I would even say over-engineered. So, for example, blockchain would be able to prevent medical and prescription billing inaccuracies. So let's say a billing staff member accidentally submitted a claim twice. Before this claim is ever even sent to all of the respective parties in a blockchain system, the technology itself would be able to catch this and stop this from happening. That way, all of the other parties are not flagging any duplicates and spending their time on that. It's also a technology that provides records of every patient's billing transaction, which then creates transparency. But before everyone jumps on me about violating HIPAA or GDPR or other privacy laws, it's also a technology that manages privacy access. So in that sense, I would say only the right person can access the right data and at the right time. It's not a free-for-all access.
And to build on it, actually, it doesn't even have to be a person who catches that mistake. It could be an AI algorithm that checks for billing issues, duplicate or inconsistent billing, because as that data is available in a pseudo-anonymous way on the blockchain, you can plug in all sorts of analytics on it, again, without a single human being seeing the contents of the data, but getting the end results. If there's a red flag, why is this red flag? This looks like a duplicate billing. Then you engage with the right parties to correct it without anyone else or anyone further needing authorization to access it. It also, just like you said, because our current billing system is a little overbuilt and engineered, it can compress the times, the billing times, the collection times, as well as improve the flow for a lot of practitioners. Right now, there are small clinics and doctors' offices that use third-party billing services. The third-party billing services use third-party software that they may or may not be good at using. And then, you go and see your doctor, you get a bill from another state, from someone you don't even know. And a lot of the times people are confused. Yes, the doctor's name is on it and they have a patient number, but why is this coming from Oklahoma? Or, I'm in New York. Why is this coming from another state? Who is this? So it's creating a lot of questions and potentially mistrust. Whereas if a blockchain system nationwide was implemented, it could clearly identify, this is your doctor, here's the NFT that's.
Oh, I think you hit mute.
and then you are able to know who's sending you the bill, know that it's accurate because it's been analyzed, and then make a quick payment, even using digital currencies and not really having to own a credit card or have to write a check. So it can speed up the processes as well as streamline and eliminate a lot of the third-party middlemen that are in it right now.
How does blockchain allow systems to be more robust and compliant as well as reduce cost? Brad, did you want to continue on to this one?
Yeah, I mean, the blockchain is a tool of disintermediation, and what that means is when you have a trusted party model from party A to B, there are a lot of entities in the middle that have to be trusted for a transaction to happen. I was just describing it in regards to the previous question. In medical billing, there's usually at least two other entities in the middle that are providing services to the medical office and the service provider. With blockchain, you can just eliminate those. What that does is, of course, reduces the cost, reduces the time to collection, and creates a direct connection between the patient and the doctor. Why is it not set up like that today? It's because the medical practitioners want to focus on what they're good at, which is provide healthcare, and the billing and collection parties are good at that. They get the bills paid and they collect, and they pass the payments to the doctor. It's because you have to have trusted parties in the middle that are going to do that. Maybe the doctor doesn't want to set up a credit card processing system, or it's too difficult, too time consuming. Again, we're talking about people whose time is very valuable. With blockchain, we can eliminate all that and create a trustless model where I know the doctor is sending me this bill. The doctor knows exactly the patient is getting the bill. It's proven on the blockchain that information flowed through. And the payment, it's the same way. It's verified, it's trustless, and it would be a major improvement to what most systems are today, because they are very bloated. There's a lot of people, and there's a lot of fees that are generated because of the model, from insurance companies to processing companies to collection companies. There's a lot of administrative third parties that are taking fees and adding on costs to our medical care right now, which can be addressed with a distributed model where everyone's able to interact with each other directly.
How can developers protect medical history data? Oh, before I get into this one, actually, I just wanted to remind everyone we're coming up on halfway. So if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to pop them in the question section at the bottom there. How can developers protect medical history data algorithms they create using blockchain? Mark, did you want to take this one?
Sure. There are different kinds of algorithms. I mean, one type of let's start there. One type is the thing that Brad was just talking about, like algorithms for how to move billing information around, and those are probably not necessarily, they're helpful, but they're not going to be terribly innovative or sophisticated. And then there's going to be algorithms where people are going to use where they're going to be farming the data for the purpose of doing like medical research, and that may have a lot of sophistication to it. And so if you've developed an algorithm along those lines, how do you protect it? Now, one way you're not going to probably protect it is with patents, for basically two reasons. First, algorithms and software, it's very difficult to get a patent on those things from the patent office now. They're considered to be abstract ideas, so you're not likely to get a patent. And the second thing is that if you are likely to get a patent, you won't get one for 3 years. And this is a fast enough moving industry that in 3 years' time, whatever you've patented is like yesterday's news. And so it's really not of any value. The real value that you'll have is for something to be a trade secret or a software, something that you don't want anybody to know about. So how you would protect that is just to make sure nobody knows about it. You show people as little as you possibly can. Well, first of all, you make sure that anybody that sees anything has to be under an NDA so that they can't use the confidential information for any other reason. But you also want to make sure that they get as little as possible. Sort of going back to my old sort of Department of Defense days, if you have a security clearance, unless you have a need to know, you don't get to see the information. And that's the same way that you should sort of govern this. Yeah, just make sure that you don't give information out at all, as much as you can avoid it. And if you absolutely positively have to tell somebody, make sure it's all tied down to NDAs and confidentiality. And that's really the best way to protect the algorithms.
Data science and analytics is a trend right now. How is blockchain instrumental in collecting data? Jess, did you want to take this one?
Okay, yeah, sure. So very simply, in order to analyze data or create the cool predictive models, we first need data. In data sciences and analytics, most of the time is actually spent up front. And what I mean by that is activities like finding the data, organizing data, cleaning data, and just overall preparing that data before you can ever analyze it. And lucky for all the data scientists and statisticians and analysts, blockchain is a system that streamlines those upfront processes because it actually provides standardized and structured data and in real time with the right levels of access. So in healthcare, when we acquire data, it's often quite delayed. Right? The whole process of billing and all of these other activities takes time, and then there are data aggregators, and eventually we get our hands on the data 2-3 months later. But blockchain would actually be able to put that data in the hands of the researchers as it's happening. And it does this naturally by its design, all while preserving privacy and security. And thus far, I think it's really the only technology that can provide privacy, security, and the right levels of transparency all in one. Usually you just get, it's kind of one or the other. You're private and secure, meaning everything is locked down and siloed, or you're transparent and sort of assume the data is publicly available. Blockchain would actually be able to provide all three.
Thanks, Jess. Does anyone have anything to add to that? But yeah, that's and how long would you say, Jess, like blockchain has been used within healthcare? Putting you on the spot a bit here, I know.
No worries. Within healthcare, I would say the more meaningful pilots started 2015, 16 era. I know compared to finance, healthcare is a bit lagging and behind the times, but I think it's made a lot of great strides in a short time that we've been using the technology.
Wonderful. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of recruitment going on in that space as medical device and pharma companies and insurance companies are looking to build out those divisions, right, and hire more tech and engineers to build this. So I feel like it's a very, like, the space is evolving really quickly and it's moving and things are changing and new standards are being written all the time, and everyone's trying to keep up, but it is an exciting space. How can image recognition and analysis be used in communities and industries? Mark, did you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Let's see. Let's see. I mean, it's really useful to one way to try to find information, of course, is always to do X-rays, MRIs, all sorts of other things like that, and it's to be able to do that and to share that in ways is useful, and you could tie that into a blockchain, and I think that's probably the best way of using them.
Thanks. Did anyone have anything to add? Brad?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think as more information is digitized and is available for machine interpretation, more can be done with the newer AI and machine learning models that are getting better and better at analyzing raw information, and in some instances better than human beings. Especially in healthcare, there are studies now where the current generation AI and machine learning allows detection of certain tumors and illnesses magnitudes better than a very, very experienced physician surgeon can, just because human mind and brain and experiences um, not geared towards processing large amounts of raw data. We can focus on one problem and still to this day address, solve, and deal with that problem much better than any AI and machine learning algorithm that exists today. But if we are presented with a million problems at once, our ability to focus on a million things at the same time and draw meaningful conclusions is limited, regardless of how educated, experienced, or smart you are. Whereas with AI machine learning, the machine doesn't care if it's analyzing one tumor or a million tumors at the same time. It does the same work. So, especially in imaging and interpretation of different medical imaging, I mentioned X-rays and cardiographs, and there's several others. We've seen incredible results in speed of detection and accuracy in what AI and machine learning can do. And I think it's ushering a future where we're going to rely on our human brains and experience in the final stage of diagnosis, and of course whatever solution we need to come up with depending on the situation, but not have a doctor spend days looking at an X-ray trying to figure out, is that a tumor or is that something benign? Do I need to do a biopsy, or is a biopsy even possible if it's like an image of a brain? And certain parts of the brain, it's very risky to do things like that. So I think the AI human interaction and collaboration is going to be an incredible leap forward in medical care.
Oh, you're on mute, Claire.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Brad, for that one. And then how is blockchain bringing the industry together? Jess, did you want to take this one?
Yep, sure. So I would say at the moment, healthcare is extremely siloed. And I think Brad touched on this way in the beginning, but take, for example, our own healthcare records. Everyone, all of my doctors essentially has a different slice of me, a different view of me. So my eye doctor knows just about my eyes. My primary care doctor knows of some general things, cardiologist, dermatologist, etc. But within a blockchain system, every doctor would have access to really a single and complete version of me and all the other patients. So every doctor would get all of the updates about me. So if, for example, my primary care doctor would be able to see any test results or any prescriptions from when I visited a dermatologist, let's say. And in that connected world within blockchain, if my primary care doctor tried to prescribe a new medication for me, she would then be able to see any and all of the other prescriptions. And that's actually quite powerful. It would give her the ability to see if this new drug is contraindicated or works poorly with any current medication from another doctor that I might be taking. I think overall, this is a technology that lets even competitors come together in a single network to share data for mutually beneficial reasons. So where in the past we see each other as purely competitors, it's more like co-opetition. So we're cooperating, but still competing.
Co-opetition, I like that. And then the last question we have, and I would say if anyone does have any other questions that we can present to the panel, we're gonna move on in after this one. So please feel free to type them in the question box now. But the last question is, if people are collaborating to develop solutions for blockchain medical history data, what should they do to protect their confidential information for those solutions and to allocate intellectual property rights that they develop? Mark.
Sure. Well, the confidentiality is a lot like what I talked about before, but just a little bit more complex in that you have multiple parties and they have to keep everything confidential between themselves and everybody else, so that you don't want, someone else spilling the beans, so to speak. And so everybody ought to sit down and sort of say, what are our confidential agreements going to be, and how are we going to behave and do everything consistently with everybody else? In terms of getting intellectual property rights, it can be very complicated for patents. And the reason for that, if there are patents, and before I mentioned there may not be too much in this area, but assuming that there are, the problem is the people who own the patents are the inventors. And what typically happens is the inventors will or work for a company, they will assign their invention to the company. So if people are collaborating, there will be multiple people that own a patent. That's always a bad idea because each person can license anybody else or do anything independent of the other, and they can really fundamentally destroy each other's rights that way, which is a bad thing. And so what you want to do is you want to say, well, who is going to own the patents? That's number one. And you might say, well, gee, if someone's going to own the patents, doesn't that leave everybody else out? And the answer to that is no, because what you also do is you also say, okay, fine, you will own the patents, but you will license the patents so other people will have other various rights to it. So everybody gets the rights that they need, and maybe somebody owns it. Everything can be adjusted in terms of where royalties go, or if you have to pay royalties, and who gets to do what. And so that is a complicated, but that's a discussion that should take place beforehand, because all of a sudden, if you have an invention, then everybody gets crazy ideas and are less likely to agree. They can kind of agree in the beginning when no one says it was, I thought of it more than you thought of it. At that point, you sort of say, okay, if any of us thinks of anything, what are we going to do? And at that point, everybody can be fair and reasonable to each other.
Thanks, Mark. That's really, really useful information to prevent problems down the line. Okay, so we're going to move on to questions now. So the first question is, given the power use efficiency of a decentralized blockchain verification, is its use in medical better than other centralized encrypted databases? And if so, why?
I'll take a stab, and then I'll pass it on to others to give something more elaborate. So I would say that while I love technology and I can geek out about blockchain all day, I would say it's not the right solution for every use case. So we really have to evaluate it from the business side and the end user side first. I'm not holding a hammer looking for nails to hit. Rather, I'm looking at what's happening in the healthcare industry. How can we improve it? And is blockchain even the answer for that? And it's not. For many, many cases, it's not. And centralized encrypted databases still have their place, for sure. We won't get rid of those in a heartbeat, or anytime soon. But for the cases where you have multiple external parties that collaborate and share information, blockchain can really speed things up just by connecting the data itself. But on top of that infrastructure, you can add a lot of automation, which isn't by its nature, it's not blockchain. Like intelligent automation isn't blockchain, but blockchain could really enable that much better. In terms of decentralized, is it slow to time consuming, the resource consumption? It actually depends on the consensus method that you that you go with. So proof of work, proof of stake, yes, they do have those limitations, but there are plenty of other consensus methods that don't have those same resource limitations.
I want to jump in, and I agree with what Jess was saying. Blockchain is just a tool. It's a technology, and it can be used to improve business processes and the user experience and information sharing, but it's not going to be the silver bullet for everything. So we don't need to have everything decentralized. And just to focus a little bit on that power consumption topic, I think it's a misnomer. This month, Christmas lights are gonna use more energy than all blockchains that are in existence combined for a month. And as much as we believe blockchains do provide some value to some people, Christmas lights, contribution to humanity other than cheering us up here and there is very little. So whenever I hear this, given the power consumption, it just shows an innate lack of understanding of what blockchain is and different consensus mechanisms. Just like Jess said, there are ones that are very, very low power consumption and affordable if that's what the direction you want to go. But whenever someone says, well, given the power consumption for anything blockchain, it just shows that they do not understand the power consumption of the centralized systems that we're currently using. And they're trying to compare something to something else, and neither of which they have a good grasp of, like apples to oranges. They say Bitcoin's power consumption is unacceptable. Why should we even have that? It should be abolished, without knowing how much energy banks consume and the SWIFT system consumes and the militaries that allow those systems to exist consume. And putting it in comparison, at least apples to apples. So I don't think power consumption is even a remote consideration in blockchain applications in healthcare, because we have machinery that consumes so much more electricity than any of those things. I mean, the scanning machines, the CT scans and the X-ray machines, if you want to talk about power consumption of certain things that are being used in healthcare, the blockchain that you put information on to share is going to be not even in the top 100 of the top power consumers. The hospitals, the cleaning, the maintenance of hospitals, it's incredible amounts of energy that's being consumed. So the greenness of blockchain should not be the main conversation topic. It should be, just like Jess said, does this improve the care that we can give? Does this help humanity? And if it does, and it's a decentralized system, that's great. And if a centralized system does a better job, I think healthcare should come first, not the technology enabling that care to be provided.
Yeah, it's like everything else. You want to, pick the right tool for the job. If you kind of want to knock down a wall, a sledgehammer is a great option. But if you want to put a picture on the wall, probably you do something else.
I like that. Okay, well, we don't have any other questions, I don't believe. So I think it'd be nice just to move along to closing comments. And are there any final words that you would like to leave us with, Mark, Jess, and Brad?
Oh, okay, I guess I'll go first. I think final words, I want to reiterate, blockchain as a technology stack. It's a tool. We can all use it. We can all learn about it. And as with any other tool, you can use it for good, for betterment of the industry, the business you're in, or you can use it for other purposes that only benefit you and a small group of people. So as a technology, I think it has an incredible potential to increase collaboration, reduce costs, and increase access and timely care in healthcare. Obviously, how it's interpreted, how it's implemented is going to depend on the end goal. And I believe all of the participants in the healthcare ecosystem want to deliver better care, want to deliver it cheaper, and make it more accessible for everyone. And I think that's going to be the underlying guidance and path to follow when using blockchain to innovate anything.
Thanks, Brad. Jess or Mark, is there anything? If there's nothing that you wanted to close with, we can move. We can say goodbye.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that Brad really summed it up extraordinarily well, and that's kind of where we are. It's just an exciting thing, exciting technology, exciting opportunities, tremendous value, and we'll be sitting here 5 years from now saying, of course. But right now, it's just exciting to look at the future.
Wonderful. Well, a huge thank you, everybody online and myself. Very much appreciate you all taking the time to share your expertise in the area. And please, if you are a panelist, if you are a visitor today and a guest, don't hesitate to reach out to our guests and connect with them on LinkedIn. They'd welcome any connections. And this video will be posted. It should be up for replay on YouTube, and we should be able to share this with you too if you sent your email address. So thank